Turn next to Mr. Ferranti.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want a quick note of thanks to you, Ms. Crystal, for your time as chair. I got to watch the remarks I gave last year at this time, or 2 years ago, and you lived up to every piece of it. And that does not mean we always agree, but it does mean you sought the best and were a great leader for us. So thank you. Lincoln said at his second inaugural that there was less of a reason for an extended address than his first. So when I said that to my wife a couple weeks ago, she crisply delivered humble pie. Are you comparing yourself to Abraham Lincoln? I most certainly am not, but I will try to be brief. It's safe to say that the two biggest issues of the first 6 months of 2023 will be the housing policies considered through missing middle and the fiscal year 2024 budget. I'd like to begin by sharing a few big picture thoughts about those issues and all of the issues we face. We must work to build consensus. Consensus is not unanimity, but it respects the voices of all and looks to serve the greatest good. While not everyone will be happy with any particular decision, our community as a whole should feel heard and understand the reasoning that prevails in votes taken by the board. Second, civility will be more important in 2023 and more difficult, I believe, than it has ever been in my time on the board. Let's debate the policy and avoid casting aspersions on our neighbors' motives. Third, the details matter. They always matter to me. Your questions, our answers, and our conversation are the heart and soul of our civic life. I think if we focus on the details, it can help us move forward. Couple of points on housing and missing middle. My views are nuanced, so I will be working toward a thoughtful missing middle policy that does try to build consensus. My reelection, first point, I believe was neither a mandate to enact the full staff proposal, as it has been worked on with staff and the board, and it was also not unrelated to missing middle. Some say that my 60% and Mr. Adam Theo's 10% mean that 70% of Arlingtonians support missing middle. I respectfully disagree. I campaigned on other issues. My views on missing middle, as I just said, were and are not the full proposal that we have seen to this point. And I believe that there were many, many factors involved in Arlingtonians' decision last November. We also have additional responsibilities to care for our climate and parks, our infrastructure, and our neighbors who struggle with hunger, poor health, and significant poverty. While missing middle is certainly important, we cannot and should not lose our focus on other critical issues which we can work on at the same time. Second thought on missing middle, we cannot delay for delay's sake. Some are already asking that we delay what is called the request to advertise. I respectfully disagree. If you have read the December 7th set of options that will form the bulk of what we will consider later this month, you know that the options in it could lead to very different policies. The purpose of the RTA and the 60-day period of consideration thereafter is to allow for a full and healthy, more specific conversation about details. On our budget, February through April will be dominated by one of the more difficult budgets we faced on my time on the board. The fundamental shift in our office market, as colleagues have mentioned, will make this challenging. We must be fiscally smart, balancing the long-term positives we want to invest in with our charge to be careful stewards of your money. My top budget priorities, beyond meeting the collective bargaining agreements, are funding our schools and combating climate change. On our schools, this is still the beginning of a multi-year effort to make Arlington Public Schools the best in Virginia for every child. My funding priority for this addresses the single biggest factor in our children's success while they're in school, our teachers. I will also work assiduously with our school board colleagues to support educational equity. On climate, it is a huge issue, as Ms. Crystal mentioned. I'm looking for transformational decisions that can help us get to work on our next goal, our 2035 goal of 100% renewable electricity by all Arlington residents in our community. We need bold and innovative ideas that will make Arlington an example for the next decade for the localities around the country. I'm determined to work with our Arlington initiative to rethink energy and our climate office to help transform our county as we strive to do our local part to save our planet. Looking past the budget and missing middle, I'll be focused on several other key priority areas, and they start with inclusive economic growth. Our office vacancy rate is above 21%. We must recognize we have undergone a fundamental shift from working in the office almost exclusively to working from home, and that is here to stay. Our property owners, managers, and county leadership must focus on fully adapting to this reality. I will make myself available to our new Arlington Economic Development Director, Ryan Toohill, and the excellent team of professionals at AED. In addition to our office vacancy rate, adopting a thoughtful plan for Langston Boulevard as soon as possible must be a top priority for me and I believe for us, because this is a plan with a big upside for our community. Our outreach and engagement efforts are ongoing and will contribute greatly to the adoption of a thoughtful and lively plan. Specifically, I'll be pushing for adoption as soon as is reasonably possible this summer, and the plan will be my top CPHD priority. We also, in my view, need to move forward the implementation framework and build out some of the analysis that will lead to the development, the economic development we need. On hunger, I'm excited that the manager will be reporting on our community's progress on the food security strategic plan via our food security coordinator at our regular January meeting. I hope that's okay, Mr. Chair. Moving forward, he'll be working with the Food Security Coalition made up of residents, nonprofits, and county staff to move this issue forward. I look forward to learning more about next steps and include recommendations on how we might, as a government, help address the growing cost of food for those most in need. On housing, I'm committed to affordable housing for those below 30% and to finding creative solutions to address the funding gaps in construction. These are critical steps, but distinct, in my view, from the very important missing middle conversation we have and must have over the coming months. This addresses a slightly different slice of our housing market. I support dedicating resources to those at 30% and below, and in general as a countywide policy, and specifically at Barcroft. I also support a community land trust and to working on the next steps on the homeownership study released in October. Transportation and pedestrian safety, we have seen several times this past year that we must lead. Our Vision Zero team is proactively addressing hotspots, and I'll be pushing for policies that I believe can better quantify the risk of accidents and serious injuries in order to move us as quickly as possible towards that zero pedestrian death goal. We can both recognize our staff is doing innovative and excellent work and also take the next steps to accelerate progress. Last but not least, equity. I'm committed, as I know my colleagues have said today and are, to building a more racially just Arlington in every part and aspect of our county. It must be part of every discussion that we have. In addition, I think it's important to say out loud, as the months and years pass since May of 2020, when George Floyd was murdered, that this board and this community has an obligation to work with our Chief Race and Equity Officer and to ensure that we are taking all the steps we can, with our Police Oversight Board fully operational, and we must do the work to make measurable progress in reforming our system of county government so that it better serves racial justice. It's an ambitious set of priorities. Here's hoping that my work actually lives up to those priorities. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. DeFerranti. Now,